Hi, it's Brett here from Grassroots Online for episode 19 of our weekly video podcast, RootsCast. With me is my fellow traveler, Mark Hardwick. Say hi, Mark.
How's it going, everyone?
We are just back from San Francisco. We just spent 5 days on the lovely West Coast. I can tell you I had an absolutely fantastic time. What about you, Mark? Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, it was a great time. Had loads of fun. Lots of walking, well, and lots of driving.
Lots of walking, lots of driving. Absolutely, we saw lots of different things. So I have to give a shout out to our host, Michael, for the trip. He and his family showed us around to some fantastic places. I want to show this one here. This is a wonderful picture that Mark took. This is a selfie of me taking a selfie. So we thought we'd do a little bit of a selfie inception there. This is on the Highlands, right near the Golden Gate Bridge. So we were having a little bit of fun there, and we were really enjoying ourselves. So I thought it was great. It's really, really interesting because I thought it gave me a lot of, at least it gave me a lot of insight into a lot of the tech culture, because coming from the East Coast, it's not something that it's just a very, very different culture, and you can see where the environment, the way they're connected to their surroundings and things like that. You start to see from a cultural point of view, you see why a lot of things, from a Silicon Valley point of view, and from sort of that whole area, you can really see the approach. It makes a lot of sense in terms of some of the apps and things that come out of there, and some of the culture, the way that sharing and sort of interacting with people on a much deeper basis. You can sort of see, for me anyway, why sort of how the culture sort of becomes the culture in Silicon Valley. So I found that really, really interesting. I mean, I had, like I said, great time, just fantastic, just absolutely beautiful, beautiful area out there, and it was really a lot of fun. What are your thoughts? How would you summarize the trip there? Do you have any thoughts on that, Mark?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a lot different. I think you summarized the tech point of view. I think it's a lot different. I think it's a lot different over here east. It seems a lot more relaxed over there. But yeah, I think you're right about the tech side of it. Me personally, is a completely different experience. I'd say to see all the different things, and even the apps that I used while I was there. Like, I never used Yelp before, and I used Yelp one day to find a place for us to eat or something like that. Yeah. It's just unheard of. I'd never use it here. I mean, there's no reason for me to use it here because it's not very active. But apparently over there it is. So I checked it out. I used it a little bit. But yeah, no, it's definitely a different environment. I don't know that it's my digs. I don't know if I could go and live there. I mean, I guess there's so many different areas that you could live in, and so many different hubs that we were talking about when we were leaving, that everything is different. Like 10 miles away, it's different. Another 10 miles away, it's a completely different world.
Yeah,
so
true.
I think the tech world, along with the kind of the atmosphere and the landscape in the Bay Area, is completely different. Nothing wrong with it. Great. It's a different kind of place, and a lot of good stuff comes out of there. But let's bring some of that stuff back over to the east in a little different way.
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, I'd like to bring the weather and the environment. There's no question about that. So it's just beautiful out there. So
do you know it was 90 degrees when we left? It was 90 degrees the next day. So
wow.
yesterday it was 90, and we were in hoodies, so we just missed it.
Yeah, well, it was sunny enough that we both got, we both have we have to watch the sun there. We both got burnt on it when we were touring around San Francisco. So at least we got couple good, really solid days of sun. So anyway, we had a good time. That's our sort of report. That's our class report for our trip to San Francisco. So we're going to switch to two topics. The first one, I think this is something that folks talked about a fair bit, or it's been covered a fair bit, is and I'm gonna share this screenshot. The NYPD they took to Twitter, asking people they created a hashtag #MyNYPD, and they asked people to share photos with them, to submit photos via Twitter of their experiences with the New York Police Department. And I would probably say fairly predictably, they just got absolutely hammered with photos. I mean, I can just it goes on and on and on of people submitting photos of police brutality. Look at this one, this picture of this cop cranking back to punch this guy. Like, they got absolutely pummeled on that side. and it ended up going beyond the New York Police Department. It spread to other police department hashtags. We started doing my Oakland PD, my LAPD, things like that, and now it's people have just been submitting photo after photo of this sort of I guess evidence or whatever you want to call it, proof or whatever examples of the NYPD being a little less than I guess neighborly, or probably not in the most positive light. So I want to get your thoughts, Mark, on whether or not, like, I have to ask this question. I'm sorry, maybe I'm kind of biasing this whole thing, but what were they thinking? Like, what the heck were they thinking on this one? I'd really like. I don't get it. I just want to get your initial thoughts, and we can sort of start chopping it up here.
Yeah, sure. Who thought this was a good idea in the first place? The guy who just opened a Twitter account?
Yeah.
Got to be a guy who just opened a Twitter account the other day or yesterday. And never been on Twitter, never been in a space other than checking out maybe a couple of golf courses or checking out some information on in the New York Times or whatever. But what were they thinking? Like, I mean, okay, let's try to be friendly. Yeah, do that, be friendly, and go have a meet somewhere and meet with NYPD and go talk to people who want to take pictures. Because if you look at it, and it kills me, because I look through the stream, and you get down to, I don't know, maybe 10, if it even makes it down to the 15th tweet or 20th tweet, they're all like, hey, they're all happy and friendly. Oh, look, I'm taking a picture with NYPD officers in the Wall Street area.
Yeah.
I'm taking pictures with, I'm like, okay, here we go. Bang! Dude getting banged off a cop car. An old man getting beaten up for jaywalk who's now suing the NYPD for $5 million. Bang, 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 bang. Like, who thought it was a good idea? Does the NYPD have no experience on social media? Like, my NYPD.
Yeah.
Bam! They just got smacked down. Like, that's police brutality right there.
Well, some of the picture, and to be honest with you, I chose. I mean, I didn't really choose them specifically, but the ones I chose, I actually didn't include. Again, like I said, I didn't do it on purpose. There were some very graphic photos of people the dog being shot. They had people being like just absolutely like in the hospital with neck brace and all that kind of stuff, bruised everywhere. Like, it was unbelievable. Like, this doesn't go beyond. This isn't United Breaks Guitars. This is like, here's the worst side of this organization. And I'm with you. Like, I don't know if there's much to talk about. I can't even begin to imagine who thought this would be a good idea. And apparently the NYPD, which maybe this is an organizational cultural thing, they're basically saying, look, we're not going to be deterred. We're going to keep having people submit photos and all that kind of stuff, and basically ignore the haters or the trolls. But like, this is unbelievable, the amount of bad press that they got. And if you look at the articles, and we'll post some of them in the show notes, but like, article after article after article after article, them saying, just absolutely getting hammered for even trying this. And the point that I want to make, I guess, on this one, because this might be a short topic, but I want to raise it because it's just one of these things where there's two things that I want to raise. The first one is hashtags. I get tired of talking about it. Hashtags are a double-edged sword, right? On the one hand, they're great. They can be a place to congregate for a conversation. That's fine, and I understand what hashtags are for. But you have to realize that they can also be used by people who you don't want to be a part of the conversation, or that sure, it speaks against the sort of open nature of social media, but how many times do I have to say this? Like, when you're in the political space, or you're in any kind of where you have opponents, very defined opponents, and in all type of situation, why use a hashtag? Like, or you have to be very careful about the hashtag that you're going to use. That's number one. Number two is, when you're thinking about doing these kind of things, like send us your pics, you have to really do some deep, hard thinking about whether or not that your organization is neutral or not, right? It's different if you're a cake shop and you're saying, hey, why don't you show us your favorite cakes, or whatever the case may be. But when you're somebody who's as sort of a lightning rod, like the New York Police Department, and people can argue about whether they are or not. Look, they're a controversial organization. All police organizations are. The idea that you can go out there and try to be naive about this and saying, send us your pics. What the heck do you think is going to happen? you're gonna get hammered. You can't assume that, like, what do you think? Occupy Wall Street and other organizations like that aren't gonna jump all over this, and they're far more well represented than your fans or your people on a place something like Twitter. I don't get it, man. Like, it's one of these things where no one could come up with a good argument for me on why they would do something like this. I don't get it.
No, and you know what? I wish I could disagree with you on this. Like, but they totally got hijacked. This my NYPD hashtag got hijacked, and I'm looking at it right now. So I'm looking at the first tweet they put out was on April 22nd, right? And you go up, you scroll up a little bit, and you look, and it stopped. They're not. It doesn't. They're carrying on with this campaign. No, they're not. April 23rd, this campaign was over for the NYPD news account. Done. Okay. That hashtag hasn't had any action other than people who have hijacked it for the last 7 days now.
Okay, so maybe I read it early. I did. Admittedly, I read an article early on. Maybe they abandoned it, but they were saying they were talking tough at first, and they're sort of like, we're going to keep on. We're not into.
And no, totally not on you at all. But my point is, if you're going to put out a hashtag like this and you're going to start getting beaten up on it, you better have something to come back with. You better have something to roll and to counteract what's going on. I mean, I think I read there's something like 70,000 photos put out, but it seems a little bit much to me. But quite possibly there could be. That's not a high number. But I mean, you should have something that's like going, because these guys just got beaten up and their hashtag got taken over and the opponents won. Like,
for sure.
I mean, ultimately it's the New York Police Department, and what does it matter? It's social media, blah, blah, blah. They're going to go on and do their job, law and order. But ultimately online, and their opponents, and we all know that social media has a very large impact in the way people think and the way people do things nowadays.
Yep.
Like ultimately they lost. They lost this one. And I didn't think that. The funny thing is, and I don't know if it's funny, but they didn't even see it coming. They didn't have any. There's no comebacks, no nothing. It was like, we're just going to lie down and we're going to take the beating now. That was it.
Yeah. No, and look, if you're going to play this game, like, you have to make sure you've got all your stuff lined up and that you realize, like, it's going to take an effort for you to, when you have a well-defined opponent and somebody who's going, that's going to be throwing this stuff at you, you need to make sure that you've lined up all of your stakeholders, your positive stakeholders, and make sure that they're adding content, that they're being a part, like, to have a game plan. The other thing that I'd suggest, if I can make a recommendation, is that, look, if you're going to ask people to submit stuff, don't do it publicly, right? Because then that way you at least have control. If you said, look, email this or do something like that, that wouldn't necessarily stop, let's say, for example, an organization like Occupy Wall Street from hammering on you, because once you announce it publicly, they're going to start, they're going to play their game, and that's fine. But at least that way you have a certain amount of control, and you're not feeding into it. Like, when you try to do, like, the problem with the hashtag is that it's all out in the open. And again, from a social media point of view, fine. But you and I, Mark, we navigate in a political or advocacy environment. It's different. You have to take steps to make sure that you're not going to be embarrassed, or at least that you're not going to basically set yourself up to get cracked across the head. I mean, it's different. Like, look, sometimes things happen. You go, that's not how we anticipated. Somebody took it over or whatever. But you have to think, like, what are people like well-defined opponents, what are they going to do? And you at least need to play. It makes no sense to just walk right into it, which is exactly what they did. And this, like, just fail all around. I
don't want to go on too much longer because we've talked about this, but I do want to read to you, and I don't know if you read it because it was in another article. But New York Deputy Chief Roaster stood up for this campaign and said, the NYPD is creating new ways to communicate effectively with the community. Twitter provides an open forum for uncensored exchange, and it is an open dialogue that's good for our city. Really? That's good for your city? Okay.
Yes, so. But I mean, like, okay.
Beaten and pictures being put up, and you think that's great for your city? Well, hey, what do I know about policing, I guess? I do know about social media, and I do know that hashtag was an awful failure. So.
Absolutely. And you know what? You're going to play it up. Like, I mean, they've already abandoned the hashtag so much for using it as a two-way dialogue. I guess that was short-lived.
Yep.
All right. Well, there you go. Big, huge fail. So we'll leave it at that. So let's move to another unintended consequence. We'll talk about this. I'm gonna post it here. We don't get great audio with this, but I'm gonna show it anyway. there's a video, and I'll put this on here. There's a video from a candidate. You know, I'll get rid of the mute. I'll mute the. So basically, what it is it's not going to show up very well. But this is a video. It's supposed to be like a Viagra commercial, and we'll run it. But it's a candidate who's running against Speaker Bonner, Bonner, and what they tried to do is his opponent is trying to make some hay over his candidacy against the Speaker of the House, and essentially what it is, it's supposed to be like a Viagra commercial. It's erectile dysfunction, and it's basically supposed to be like a Viagra commercial. And I guess part of the reason why it got some notice is because it has over 300,000 views. But also the guy who he works for a Christian college, he was actually tossed. Or his contract wasn't renewed because this video violated their values. I don't want to get into the values discussion. What I'd like to talk about is whether or not these videos are worth doing, because I see a lot of it. This is why I thought it'd be important to talk about. I see a lot of these videos where they're trying to be funny and they're trying to be like they're trying to make it go viral, and I kind of wanted to just chat about that because in many ways I don't really understand it. So I just want to get your thoughts on whether you think that this is. You watched the video. Regardless of his what his affiliation with it is with his work, do you think that this is a video that's worth doing? Do you think it's funny? Like, did it make you like? What did you think of it, Mark? Like, did you look at it and say, okay, that was a pretty interesting thing or whatever? I mean, he does have 300,000 views, so I just want to get your thoughts.
I actually had to watch it twice to get the to get the Viagra feel of it. And maybe that's because I'm not an older gentleman that needs the little blue pill yet, so maybe I don't get that yet. I don't know. But I had to watch it twice, and I watched it a few more times, and I picked up different things in the video that I found would have been more useful. So I definitely think this type of video, unless it's really well done, which I wouldn't really consider this to be really well done, and mimic the little blue pill as well as they do on TV. Obviously, it's low budget. You don't have as much money as whatever. I don't know if it's Pfizer or whatever company produces that. I don't know. They don't have as much money, right? So I didn't think it was particularly well done, and I think that if you look at it, there's a ticker, and I'll get into that later. There's a ticker along the bottom that actually had some more interesting facts that could have been presented in his defense and kind of not in his defense, but in presenting him as a better candidate than Bonner or Boner, however, I cannot remember how to say his name. So you can just call him Mr. Boner for now, Speaker Boner for now.
In our defense, they do say he actually says the speaker himself actually says Boner in the video. Nice. So to be okay,
I'll just stick with Speaker for now.
Speaker, yeah. So I guess here's my take on it. I've seen a few of these where they're trying to, it goes quote viral because it's fun, and people like, TechCrunch and other publications, they pick up on it and they say, oh, look, this is a great video. I say, you know what? Here's the long and short of it. Yeah, sure, it gets you some attention and all that kind of stuff. What kind of attention is it going to get you? Because here's my view. If the video doesn't get you any more votes or any more money, it is a complete waste of time. I don't care. They can talk about name recognition and all that stuff. Do you actually think that the voters in that district are actually they're reading about this? The stuff that we're talking about. Like, I think the article was in on Fox News, maybe Fox News. But you see like these tech publications and stuff, or people like Mashable and all that kind of stuff. Do people actually think that these are this is where you're going to actually convert these people to supporters? It's ridiculous. And I look at these things. I agree with you. There could have been way better things, but I think that there's a lot of pressure online for people to do things, and even I say, look, you need to have your content that's interesting, but it still needs to be on brand. It still needs to be on message. And I think that when we start talking about things like erectile dysfunction, all this kind of stuff, it's way too cute. It's way too like people don't care about this kind of stuff. And I just again, in the pursuit to be viral, you can't sort of basically move so far away from your campaign that's not helping your campaign anymore. And again, how many of those? Here's the question I would ask: how many of those 300,000 views are in the district and can vote for this guy? Right? Otherwise, it doesn't matter. If there's 5 of them, there you go. That was resources. So, I don't know. I've seen too many of them now, and the people are really trying to swing for the fences. And I say, look, unless you have a national audience, or unless you've got even a statewide audience, it's not worth doing these kind of things. And I don't understand why they try to get their name recognition up like they're Jimmy Kimmel. just makes no sense to me. I don't know. You said you want to talk about the ticker. What were you thinking about in terms of the information?
Well, I was thinking that the ticker had more information about JD Winteregg as opposed to like I guess there's some talk about him buying a huge house in Florida or something like that, a second family home, and he's basically saying the ticker, and it has a whole bunch of information saying don't believe this when you see that, don't believe this when you see that. I'm for this, I believe, something like that in there.
Yeah.
The part that I caught was some of the myths he was trying to get out to dissuade people about that. Well, you know what? I can't read that ticker when it's going super fast along the bottom of the video there. So, quite frankly, it's supposed to be funny, like the warning, like the may cause sweats, may cause heart attacks, may cause blah blah blah. The list of 1,000 ailments that this little blue pill may cause. But quite frankly, that's great for a Viagra commercial, but it's not good for a commercial for a politician, because you need to actually someone who's examining the video notices that, right? Because I'm examining it and I'm watching it a couple times. Most likely a regular average Joe who's probably not in your district, you're right, or not in your state, whatever, is not looking at it and not analyzing the video like I am. So quite frankly, that kind of stuff needs to not be along the bottom of the ticker. It should have been right up front in another video. And I went through his YouTube account. Mm-hmm. He only had 3 videos. None of them talk to the stuff that he put at the ticker, and it's a little bit disappointing. As even though I'm not a voter, it's a little bit disappointing that someone put such important stuff or defensive stuff to defend his reputation in the bottom of a useless ticker that no one sees.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. I think that kind of there's a reason why those kind of negative, very pointed negative ads work. Both on TV and radio and other mediums. There's a reason why they work, and I think that like humor is a very, very. I've said this before. Humor is very, very difficult to execute. Right? Like very, very tough. And I think just all in all, I mean, when you're going to do something like that, I think that it's fine to tie humor into a point that you're trying to make, but I think that this was so far off, and it was so much. Again, I understand the pressure, right? I totally understand the pressure of saying, look, we need to get attention, we need to get eyeballs. I get that, right? And I guess we're talking about him, so we're far, kudos to him, I guess. But in terms of name recognition, but I think ultimately is that the kind of name recognition that they want to get, and I don't think that this is exactly smart. I mean, sure, it blew up for whatever reason, but I think ultimately, how are they converting them? How are they getting people to quickly, log in and donate or to volunteer? To me, anyway, I just think it's a huge. I am kind of repeating myself. I just look at this stuff and I just say, look. In the pursuit to go viral, like you have to make sure you're not gutting your own campaign. You're spending all this time trying to do something that's really funny and that'll get on the front page of whatever. But ultimately, if it's not serving your campaign, it's just an absolute complete waste of time. So please stop doing these things. I'm seeing this all again in the Toronto. Not to change things, but I'm looking at the Toronto mayoralty race, and everybody's trying to be funny. Say, guys, or they're trying to be quirky or whatever. Say, guys, this stuff is awful. It just look. I understand the internet is for entertaining, but holy cow! I don't know what it is today. People are making bad choices on the internet today. I think that's what's going on here, man. I don't understand it.
Yeah, you gotta get back to, if you're gonna use the internet, you gotta get back to using it for your policy, for your ideas, to ask for ideas. Maybe not to share pictures as we discussed in the other segment, but. It's about policy ideas. It's about getting and putting those ideas out and getting them. It's not about sharing stupid things about a Viagra commercial. Ha, that's funny. That's great. I produced that in high school. But it's seriously, it's not effective, and actually probably turned off more of his base than actually turned them on. To be honest with you.
Yeah, it's.
Why do we want this Joker? Why do we want this Joker representing us? Quite frankly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
get down to business and come up with some. I mean, he's got one policy video that's 5 minutes long and bored me to watch it, but whatever. Let's be serious about this.
No, I agree. And look, there are interesting ways that you can present policy, and you can present them in ways that they're friendly to the viewer, and they can be done in entertaining ways. But you have to be very, very careful about that kind of stuff because not everybody can be a comedian. So. You can. It's much easier for you to fall flat in your face, which I think this video is done. That's my own personal opinion. Again, we'll post it. People can offer their own opinions, but again, big huge fail. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I'm not even sure what it's supposed to make me do. Really, it doesn't make me feel in the moment.
Yeah, when the moment is right, the moment wasn't right for you. Is that what you're saying?
The moment was not right for me at all.
Okay. Well, I think we'll end it there. I want to thank everybody for watching, as we always do. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you have a wonderful afternoon and week, and we will see you this time next week for episode 20.
Thanks, folks. Have a good day.